everybody. My name is Ellen Pensky, and on behalf of Packet Fusion, I want to welcome you to today's Lunch and Learn. It's part of our series of helping you see clearly in 2020. And guess what? This is December. This is our last Lunch and Learn for 2020. Coming up next year, we're going to roll out a new series with some interesting things. So all of you who are online, you'll be hearing more about that. But we really do appreciate many of you attending our monthly events, and especially appreciate your interest. We've covered a lot of topics this year, but one that's come up a lot is SD-WAN. Some of you have been asking why SD-WAN, and we're going to cover that today along with why Windstream. So among the topics, and we're going to cover a number of topics today, we're going to be talking about applying big data and AI to network management, optimizing performance for critical applications, and also ensuring enterprise-level security for applications while shifting to the cloud. Those are just a few of the things we're going to cover. We will have presentations lasting probably about 45 to 50 minutes. We're going to have some questions in between, and there'll also be time at the end for questions. You're welcome to put your questions in the Q&A, and so we'll look for them and we'll take them there. Matt's going to be facilitating that. I also want to remind you that it is a lunch and learn, as many of you know. So we will be sending out Grubhub gift cards to the first 20 people who signed up, and we'll be sending those cards out after the session. So now I'd like to introduce our speakers. First up is Packet Fusion CEO Matt Pingatore. He's got 30 plus years of experience in the telecom industry, and he's acknowledged as an industry leader with a wealth of knowledge and experience about getting to the cloud, among other things. We're also excited to have distinguished speakers from Windstream today. We have Tony Bender, and Tony is Windstream's Director of Strategic Service. He has nearly 30 years of experience in sales and engineering, and he's helped numerous companies develop strategies to improve their network efficiencies and gain operating improvements. Also with us is Rob Chase. Rob is Windstream's National SD-WAN and Security Engineer. Rob has about 25 years of experience in developing solutions integrations for Fortune 500 companies, with a focus on security, compliance, WAN optimization, and disaster recovery. So we have a lot of experience on this panel, lots of good content to go through. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Ellen. Appreciate it. Again, I say it every time, a lot of familiar faces here. About half of you guys I know very well. The other half, thank you and welcome. We appreciate you guys coming every pretty much we're doing one every 2 weeks now, so appreciate that. You know, what is SD-WAN? Well, you know, as my tagline says, connecting the dots to the cloud, I would say SD-WAN really connects the dots to the cloud. So what's happened is, you know, everybody had these applications that resided on site in their own data center or on their own office, if you will. And you had this MPLS network that tied it all together because you had this nice network. You needed to get back to that office with that product and that application to get across your network. Now, all the applications are in the cloud. Having this MPLS or this private network that gets you back and forth within your own little, you know, enclave doesn't help you get closer to the applications that are out of the cloud. Why would you go back to corporate to get to the cloud when I could just get to the cloud and go to my cloud application? So what SD-WAN does is it gets you closer to the cloud applications without having to traverse a network and come back within your own, basically, domain. So peering at a closer level for these cloud applications, whether it be the hyperscalers or the SaaS players, you know, peering at a closer level at a network layer for them. That's what SD-WAN does. And we're going to get into that with the next version of SD-WAN, which is SASE and all those kind of things. That alone is what we're going to be talking about, but we're going to be talking about other stuff too. If we talk about everything that Windstream does, we'd be here for 3 hours, right? And we specifically said to focus on SD-WAN, but we're going to touch on the other stuff. UCaaS, right? Full UCaaS. If you have your own network, which Windstream does, why not have your own UCaaS product? They've got that. Security, they've got that. Managed service, they provide LAN WAN services, they provide consolidated billing, they provide professional services. So there's so many things these guys do. It's really cool. I'm super excited to have them aboard today. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you guys to take off on the presentation.
Matt and Ellen, both of you, thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I could not be more excited to be here chatting with all of the folks, that are really part of the team and the portfolio with Packet Fusion. I'll hit on a couple really early slides here, and then I'll turn it over to Rob Chase, who's on my team, who can get even deeper and is well-versed at these presentations. So just a little bit on, what is it Windstream does and who is Windstream? And I want to maybe even start there first. So Rob, will go to the next slide. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, Matt sort of teed this up for me, but, we have recently emerged from a restructuring. And really what that's allowed us to do is really secure our future for both growth and really technology leadership. At the end of this process, we reduced our debts by over $4 billion. And in reality, that number equates to approximately 2/3 of the debt we had. We also took an influx of capital of almost an additional $2 billion. Arguably right now, I could honestly say, I believe that we probably have the best, if not one of the best balance sheets in the industry. And then last but not least, as you go through these things, ownership changes. We have a new board. They are 100% on our 2021 budget and strongly believe we're in the right path as we are really moving and transforming and have been really down that path, but really the move from being a traditional telco to really a managed service provider that owns a backbone. And that really is what you'll hear us talking about really from this point forward. A lot of people knew us as nothing more than an access provider, a transport provider, and we're really so much more than that today. Rob, we'll go ahead and flip over. What do we do? And I'm not going to go through all of the products and all of the pieces, but we bundle ourselves around really how do we help customers optimize what they have today. So as Matt was saying, cloud communications and the convergence into that world, SD-WAN really creates the optimization for that piece. We also still do big bandwidth wavelength transports and a lot of other products that are built onto that stack. And then we've got our products that are really built to help our customers both engage internally from a collaboration perspective with their employees and also to engage their customers. So a lot of that ties around our UCaaS platforms, call center as a service, secure Wi-Fi, some analytical pieces that go with that. And then last but not least, you'd be remiss if you didn't do the first two, but you didn't provide solutions to ultimately protect those customers, whether that's security, PCI, DDoS mitigation. And then last but not least, we wrap it all with sort of professional services, depending upon what needs someone have to help, do everything from advisory services, PCI lifecycle management, threat protection. We've got some great platforms to help with threat protection, which has become a very, very key point in today's society as we're watching news and everything else talking about threat management. And then really being able to wrap it up with the installation services and make ready as people are changing technology. Rob, we'll go ahead and flip. Next one. Real quick, just sort of what is Windstream by the numbers? 150,000 route miles of fiber. We have over 425 plus locations within the United States running at over 100 gig. 550 collaboration endpoints. 11,000 employees, 5.1 billion in annual revenue. And Rob will touch on this more later. I think it's arguably, we're probably one of the leaders in SD-WAN deployments with over 35,000 endpoint locations deployed. And really a company with one goal, and that is to connect, transform, and elevate our customers' experience. And how do we do it? Really, if I were to say, what is it that Windstream does? Our specialty and what we are really, really good at is building infrastructure as a service. As I have spent my time talking with IT executives consistently in meetings and in different forums, the number one challenge for folks in that space today has this, as told to me by them, is applying the resources that they have within their organizations to helping drive the strategic business and the strategic direction of the organization versus having people really having to sit and manage infrastructure. And I think that's what we help people enable, that we help people enable that vision by ultimately being able to turn over the day-to-day management of the infrastructure side to a company like us. So again, SD-WAN, connectivity to the SD-WAN platform, mobility, Wi-Fi, IP cameras, switching and LAN infrastructure, unified communications, security solutions, all sort of wrapped up by our professional services and us doing it. And as Rob will show as he goes through his slide, giving our customers a single portal and very, very unique touch points for us to manage their infrastructure and also make high-end recommendations to improvements on that infrastructure. And with that, Rob, we turn it
Thanks,
to you.
Tony. Yeah, thanks for giving us the time today, everybody. Very proud to be working at Windstream. And as was discussed from Matt and Tony, we're here to talk about SD-WAN and Windstream's SD-WAN. But the way the industry is moving and the virtualization that started in the data centers has moved to the software applications themselves. And that virtualization is what's driving the SD-WAN, the decoupling of the management from the physical layer, right? So all of that virtualization is really driving all of this conversation around SD-WAN and the move to the SASE model that was mentioned earlier. But it's all being virtualized in such a way that these services are actually becoming part of the same solution. And as we talk through SD-WAN, I'm going to focus on what makes Windstream different, but keep in mind that this does carry over into the performance of your voice, into the security of your traffic. And it is all one conversation when you get down to it, at least from Windstream's perspective. SD-WAN as a technology, we've been talking about it and reading about it in CIO magazine for over a decade, but literally it only got defined 3 to 4 years ago on paper, right, in terms of standards. So the thing that's kind of evolved out of it is, what does it do for the business? And there's really a lot of use cases that Windstream has found that that our deployment applies to very critically in terms of getting the business accomplished. And Matt led off with the software as a service applications. They're not at the data center. They may be at somebody else's data center. They may be in the cloud. They may be hosted. They're all over the place. Cost-effective bandwidth. A lot of times in our past WAN experience, we've got a primary and a backup. And guess what? That backup, you're spending money on it. It's just an insurance policy. You're not using it, right? SD-WAN fulfills the promise of, let me use that, maybe for my less mission critical apps, but let me use what those dollars are being spent on instead of sitting idle. Prioritizing critical applications. We've done this with QoS in the MPLS days. There are ways to do it if you go back frame relay and X25 and way back when, right? You could do, I'm seeing some smiles on recognizing those technologies. You could, the promise was to control those buckets, but they're no longer buckets. Now you can have a bucket per application. So you can treat every single application and spend the resource on it that you need to spend on it. Uptime, and this is critical. We have all had the conversation about the number of nines and what that means in terms of minutes a month. With SD-WAN and the way that SD-WAN can bond access together in an active environment, and the fact that SD-WAN is agnostic to the underlay circuits, whatever that transport is, allows you to bond all those access together and get that high availability. And in the case of Windstream, I'll talk about a little bit later, there are other non-terrestrial access methods that can actually protect you against that one entrance into your physical building. Security, SD-WAN would not work without secure function. It is essentially an encrypted tunnel service. And not only does the SD-WAN have to be secure, but SD-WAN as a platform from the Windstream perspective is a gateway into other security services you can add on to the SD-WAN to follow the through line that Matt laid up earlier. And then this isn't a piece that we don't talk about enough, but because the SD-WAN is an overlay management layer on top of a physical underlay, it means that you don't have to be beholden to contracts for your infrastructure. SD-WAN is a service that can work perfectly fine if you keep your old MPLS, if you're moving off of T1s and going to fiber. SD-WAN will work over all of these different infrastructures, and you can actually have a hybrid underlay network at such time until those contracts are up and you want to co-terminate, and it will feed into your implementation plan and your business strategy, because SD-WAN will enable the hybrid network. So
Yeah,
these are, they're
going on that.
Yep.
A lot of our customers are even doing these little cradle points with LTE, you know, voice over LTE, so wireless, you know, through Verizon as their secondary path. So, and it works. And voice, even voice, UCaaS voice works over that as well. So, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on the non-terrestrial, right? And you can have multiple circuits, and then that you add that non-terrestrial backup. And I'll show you on a later slide, Windstream can get up for your mission critical sites that deserve it. We can get up to 100% availability SLA for locations. So that's the industry in general. That's where the technology stands today. Why Windstream? And before I get to my 6 bullet points on why Windstream SD-WAN, I'm going to talk about why Windstream, what does the foundation at Windstream that drives those 6 bullet points. And the first one is experience. And Tony alluded to this. We were doing SD-WAN when it first rolled out as a concept. We were doing it with what has become the top providers of SD-WAN in the industry. And we'll get into the market position in just a second for a brief moment. But know that those 35,000 endpoints that Tony spoke of, know that we've been deploying those for almost a decade. We put out, through our entire process of deployment and operations, we turn up 800 endpoints a month at Windstream. So you want to talk about experience, you don't even need a proof of concept, because chances are we've done it for your vertical in your specific model in the past. And on the right side, you see the verticals. This is just a small smattering of the different verticals that we play in and that we've got to practice around. And when it comes to, I'll dovetail into security for just a second. When it comes to all the dynamic threats and changes that are going on that are each vertical specific, government, healthcare, retail, these are all part of our SD-WAN practice, and they're all integrated in with our security philosophy and consultancy as well. Some of these are great use cases we could talk in detail about, but every single one of these companies came to us with some subset of those 6 business challenges we showed on the previous slide, and we solved it for them. The other thing you get with Windstream, and you're going to hear this as a theme as we go through this, is flexibility. We're not just you buy what we've got off the shelf. We've got standardized platforms, so you get the economies of scale from having a standardized operations flow, standardized contracts, but we haven't settled on one platform for these services. We've actually got various platforms we can leverage. Our 2 top platforms that we've been working with for almost a decade is VeloCloud, which we've been working with since before they were VMware, and Fortinet, that we've been working with in the security field for at least 7 years before they even had an SD-WAN offering. So our relationship and our experience with these companies is very deep. Our spend is deep, and we can leverage them to get things done where an individual, sourcing from them directly may not have the same leverage. With that said, I want to be very clear. And even if we talk about UCaaS and we talk about security, everything we're talking about today is a Windstream owned and operated service on a Windstream owned and operated device. This is in our, what I'll call, cloud core. So we can take full responsibility end to end over those services, the infrastructure, and I'll get into some more details of what that
does. I think that's a good differentiator there. Is a lot of people will use VeloCloud. Oh, we use VeloCloud, but they're actually using VeloCloud's worldwide network and tapping into their infrastructure. Whereas what Windstream is doing is taking the intellectual property of VeloCloud, not using their network, but using the technology within their network to
Yes.
provide this next generation cloud first cloud, making these layer 7 applications get closer to the cloud providers through their network. So it's a pretty cool little solution.
And we can leverage all the years of experience we've got as a carrier for the physical layer, right? So it all bonds together very well. And there's some
Or
significant differences. Go ahead.
Or not. I mean, I know we talked about this the other day is, SD-WAN is one of the beautiful things is having this aggregation of circuits at the remote sites. So taking two diverse carrier circuits, bonding them together at a router level with diverse paths,
Yep.
but they look like one, pretty darn cool option. And to your point earlier, you don't have to, I think it was on the slide too, you don't have to have the Windstream circuit for the diverse path.
Yeah.
Right? You can have a third-party circuit provided by somebody else that you guys manage, you guys bill for, but it's not on your network.
Yeah, and all that experience of our carrier management methodology that Windstream has done on its own infrastructure applies to when we source other carriers as the underlay as well.
Yeah, it's cool. So a lot of the guys in your world that have networks do this SD-WAN. To me, one of the biggest things of SD-WAN is this diverse carrier path methodology that you guys are taking advantage of. A lot of the other carriers won't do that. So one of the biggest value propositions of SD-WAN goes away with others. You guys are open. And so I'd almost say you guys are almost like an MSP, managed service provider, because you're allowing other people and other products within your network that you guys manage and you guys bill for. So cool stuff. Keep going.
And that brings back to the flexibility, right? We are standardized, so you get the efficiency, but we do custom design and deployment of these solutions. And that's one of the reasons we've got two flavors. We can talk about these as being leaders in the industry. We can talk about how our deployments are different. I'm going to get into that a little bit, but just know, and this is a very recent Gartner Magic Quadrant about the leaders in SD-WAN or the edge, intelligent edge. And you notice VMware and Fortinet are pretty far and above in the leader quadrant in compared to the other competitors that are out there. And this is something we're extremely proud of, and we maintain it year after year. One of the reasons we've got the two platforms is clients have different requirements, and we can talk a little bit about the two kinds of platforms, but I'm going to talk now a little bit about how we've done the deployment underneath. No matter what platform it is, we have this, Windstream has this structure in its own and operated. I'm going to talk real quick. When you do an SD-WAN deployment, you have to have an edge, you have to have an orchestrator. Even in a do-it-yourself environment, you can do SD-WAN over the internet doing those two elements. But you're going to do it yourself. You're going to have all the challenges that come with that. And you're not going to get the benefits of the upper levels. When you do a carrier deployment of SD-WAN, you're talking about having a backbone. And in Windstream's case, we have gateways that go into our backbone. And this allows you to take the right path for whatever application it is. And if that right path, the best performance path, is through the carrier's backbone, in this case Windstream, you're going to get better performance, way better and predictable results than if you put everything over the internet straight up. And then the bottom half of this is what a majority of what we're going to talk about in terms of Windstream's differentiators of its actual SD-WAN deployment. Our WeConnect portal is above all of our services that we own and operate. So when you talk about a hosted voice, security, SD-WAN, all of these things are in our WeConnect portal. And I've only got time today to just briefly touch on it, but it is developed in-house. It is ours, proprietary. Nobody else has it. And I'm just going to touch real quick on one of the things I think is great, which is the interface on the WeConnect portal has been developed to be an app on your phone. So no matter where you're at, you can very quickly on those services check out all of the things that are going on in your environment across the board. The data lake, this is huge. Again, Windstream owned, operated all of the data from not just SD-WAN, but all of the services that we own and operate are being collected, put into a data lake, getting analysis done on it for incident and events And in the SD-WAN world, you've got multiple circuits. One could have a problem, not a failure, just a brownout problem with its KPIs. And our data lake's going to be detecting that and watching it. So if that trends worse, we're going to be able to identify it as chronic and identify it as something we need to take action on before the fail actually happens. So obviously data lake, as it builds up more and more information, we're going to be able to do more and more with it, but it's definitely something that Windstream has, nobody else has in the way that we've deployed it with the experience that we've got over those years of SD-WAN. I'll go into a little more detail. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that our SD-WAN, because of our cloud core backbone, is really a platform. Once you have that SD-WAN, sure, it's going to give you the application routing and all that. But once you're connected into our cloud core, you can have a high priority access to your cloud services, AWS, Amazon, right, Azure, several other SaaS. You can get high performance connectivity into those through our cloud core. You can get to our hosted voice. You can get to our security. You can get to public to private interconnections out to the internet. Once you're an SD-WAN customer, and I'll take a tangent. Guess what was happening 10 months ago? We were getting calls from clients going, "Oh, all my employees are going to work from home. I've got to have VPN access." And we happily told them, "You already have it. You're on our platform. All we've got to do is turn it on for you logically, and we can get that rolling for you." When that client was part of the SD-WAN backbone platform with our cloud MNS, they already had that service, and we got them up and running logically in less than an hour, not weeks of signing or whatever needs to happen. So this is the kind of flexibility being part of a full service platform gives to you. And I hope I haven't stolen my own thunder on some of these slides later, but I want to make sure I get through everything. And I know we want to hit some time here. If I had 5 minutes and I could only show everyone one slide, this would be the slide, because these are the things that Windstream has and is doing in a way that no one else is doing. We call it concierge level support. And this is engineering resources that are part and extension of your operations team. And these get involved, know your environment. And if you would like, you pick up the phone, talk to them directly and say, "I want this change." And they make it for you. They know your environment, they talk it through with you, and they'll make it for you. That's one of the many ways you can activate a change here at Windstream. These are engineers, and the concierge ensures that you actually have these people involved in your implementation. We don't wait to turn you up and they say, no, that's still implementation. These guys have visibility starting from the test and turn up side.
Rob, I think it's worth noting too that concierge literally is a proactive person as well, helping make recommendations to infrastructure for the long haul with our customers jointly.
Yeah, this is the human part of the predictive analytics, right? The data lake is the robot part, but we want to have human oversight, and the concierge guys and gals are looking at your traffic, and in some cases we'll actually reach out and make recommendations for more optimized.
Well, one of the questions you'd mentioned, white glove, kind of goes along with concierge, but white glove experience, is that extra or is that part of pricing?
So I kind of had, Matt, I had kind of touched on that one in the chat for a minute, but concierge is built in. That is all part of it. You know, there's also an area we'll talk about white glove that includes different levels of installation and installation support and all of that. And that all has a little bit of variation to that perspective. But again, very reasonable, and the opportunity to allow us to handle the truck rolls, us to handle all of the make ready, all the site preparation, all of that.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, and those would be in addition. The security piece of this is really twofold. It's how secure the SD-WAN is itself. And like I alluded to earlier, it is a security based encrypted IPsec deployment, and the interaction with the other security services that we've got. Flexible connectivity. We touched upon this earlier. Being the overlay service being agnostic to the underlay, although Windstream can provide it, we don't have to. But when Windstream does provide it, we can give you a lot of different options. and Windstream can bundle and be an aggregator of all of your access providers. So if you're dealing with 5 or 6 different access providers, because those are the only guys that were available at that building, we can bring that under one operations flow, one contract for you with the SD-WAN, giving us that visibility. The cloud core, again, this is the platform piece of it, and I'll get to the topology of our cloud core, how we've got it set up, and why it really helps you become bulletproof and gives you the quality of service you need across the backbone. And then all of that, wait, there's more, right? Our digital experience is us, and it is the WeConnect portal. And I hope I get enough time to show you the magic of that in a level of detail that has an impact. But as we get engaged, as you get intrigued, as you get with Packet Fusion and they come to Windstream, we can sit down and we can show anybody a deep dive on the magic of the WeConnect portal and the digital experience. And that insights engine at the bottom, that is the insights that come out of the data lake that we mentioned earlier. Talking about the concierge support, Tony and I hit on the bullet points on this, but ultimately it is the white glove service. You're going to get this through our group and working with Steve Starbuck and the team. You're going to get this in the design phase as well. And then during implementation and operations, 24/7 support. These are Windstream staff. These are not a phone route to another time zone, region, hemisphere of the earth. These are our employees that have access to all of our information. They don't have to API through other companies. And these are people that pick up the phone, know your network, and can get things done for you. And specifically the concierge of SD-WAN, but there are stories that apply to that also under the UCAS and the security buckets as well. As Tony mentioned, this is proactive. The human part of this is proactive, and the robot part is predictive analytics, and they will reach out and assist. It is fully encrypted for those that are security minded, and especially in the retail industry. But as we know, all the industries are taking credit cards, not just retail. PCI compliance is huge, and both of these SD-WAN platforms are ready-made and certified to be part of your PCI compliant assessment and solution. It is a virtually private network. Once you add in the cloud core for performance, it is as secure as any MPLS network has ever been built out. And because we can bundle it in with our security and we can have our eyes on it, and because we're leveraging our partnerships with security companies like Fortinet, whose FortiGuard Labs detects zero-day threats. These are threats, zero-day threats are threats that nobody knows about yet. Exploits are known, zero-day nobody knows about. And FortiGuard Labs detects about one of those a week in the year 2020. And they are one of the leaders of detecting those and logging them. And they actually have a program where anyone who discovers them will get rewarded by bringing it to us and not selling it on the black market. But I could go into another session on that. But the integration of the firewalls, I won't take too long of a trip into the firewalls, but we are flexible on this as well. If you need enhanced security, unified threat management at your branch, we can do that, or we can do it as a hosted gateway in our cloud also. Very quickly on the flexible connectivity, because we have touched on this. Cable, DSL, cellular was brought up, excellent backup. Fiber, Ethernet, our coverage of what we can supply to you on our infrastructure or as part of our aggregation service. 90% of the United States. I think the other 10% is we're talking about Northern Alaska and these sorts of things. But the flexibility we have, and if you want to bring your own bandwidth and these kinds of things that was mentioned before, is completely a design conversation and would be led by what's best for your business. But I do want to bring up that we provide, in many cases, metro areas, our own fixed wireless. This is a microwave access, similar to a 4G or 5G. It would not be terrestrial, but it would be a dish on your building that if a backhoe comes over and cuts that one interest into your building, you will still be up and running. And we've got, in some cases, we've got voice running over this. There's a caveat that with the discussion about performance, but we can get that into that with the design. Broadband, cellular, these are all technologies that we can leverage and make part of a Packet Fusion and Windstream solution. The cloud core I've mentioned several times, but a picture's worth 1,000 words. Our capillarity and our bandwidth, the throughput goes all the way across the US. So all the way across the US, we have extensions into other regions for international business, so we can talk about that. And again, with the SD-WAN being a management overlay, that operations being the real value of it, the international piece, depending on our performance conversation, isn't a problem for us. We can get there, we can have the conversation with you. But our cloud core is across the US, consists of these gateway services that are deployed in the SD-WAN world. Some of our solutions actually leverage all 4 pairs of geo-redundant gateways. So these different pairs of geo-redundant gateways, there's 2 per region in 4 regions. And they're, every time we build out an SD-WAN service, we put a box wherever that endpoint is, we're actually going to build 2 tunnels. So not only are you going to have physical redundancy from that underlay access, we're going to build 2 tunnels over the top, and it's going to go 1 to each gateway. So now you've got logical diversity. Should something happen to the internet path to one gateway, the other tunnel is going to actively know that the other gateway is the best path, and it's going to protect against failure. These are all Windstream owned and operated. They all are, it's all virtualized deployment on our own hardware, and there are virtualized instances of all of in the Velo case, it's a VCG for a virtual Velo cloud gateway. All of these across the US, hundreds of these deployments. And we own and operate this code. So we have clients where we've had conversations about the code that we're developing in conjunction with VMware. And full disclosure, VMware has stolen some of the things we've developed into our portal. We've shared it with them. You've stolen, but we've shared it with them because we're co-developing it. But we sometimes come out with features and functions before they do. And we can actually, since we control it, we can actually keep clients on an older code. If there's some reason it's not going to interface well with their BGP, we've done a test. Since we have full control, you're not going to be forced to upgrade to the general code that everybody's putting out there. And quite frankly, is how VMware operates as well. They're gonna upgrade all their clients uniformly. Tony, before I move off of Cloud Core, this is the gateway. This is the platform into all the other services. But I want, Tony, before I move off of this, because this is so critical, before I get on to the digital experience and the availability. Did I miss anything on this?
No, I think you did hit on it. I mean, I think the one key point is, again, we talked about SaaS providers, we talked about Azure, we talked about AWS, that we actually have connectivity directly out of the core on the network in these, in these points of presence as well, right? And that this is also built in conjunction with long-term our voice solutions as well, right? Yeah. So that we optimize the same network for really, again, it's really the backbone for building that infrastructure as a service we talked about earlier.
Yeah, and when you take the cloud core and you take the flexible access, you get to a point where mission critical locations, we can do an HA deployment, 2 boxes, multiple circuits. Every box can support up to 4 access and a non-terrestrial, it wouldn't be tertiary, it'd be a 5th tier backup with the dual logic connection into the gateway, into our backbone, into MPLS, internet, and all those other services we talked about. This would obviously be for a mission critical data center where you're keeping intellectual property or a service that you can't go down. We've done this for retail customers that do heavy e-commerce during Black Friday and these sorts of things. You want it 100% availability, Windstream can deliver. The Cloud Connect, don't want to not talk about this, hit on it earlier. AWS and Azure are only 2. We've got several other, including some software providers like Salesforce. And it's a conversation about performance. You can obviously get to these services over the internet, but are you using the most secure path for your intellectual property? Are you getting the best performance for that mission critical app? In the cases that the answer to those are no, and we need to leverage a virtually private, predictable performance backbone, let us take that important traffic. Let us take it over the cloud core. Let us take it through our virtual interconnection gateway, and let us interconnect with your instance of AWS and Azure, or the additional ones. Tony, I'm being cognizant of time, so I.
Yep. Nope.
Okay. The digital experience, if I only had one subject to talk to you about, it would be this, and it would be because this is an operational wrap, right? So it actually applies to all of our services. It is a differentiator. It's ours. We have developed things in there. It's award-winning. We've developed things in there like tagging your devices to follow your naming convention. So you don't have to learn our language. Our platform's going to learn your language. If you call a device or a box at your Las Vegas site LV16, we're going to name it LV16, right? And that way you can look at it on your phone and you know exactly what's going on. There's a top view business level portal that has customizable widgets. You can look at operations information. You can look at billing information. You can even just click on what kind of discounts or promotional offerings does Windstream offer today. And it covers all of the services that we own and operate, like the Office Suite, the SD-WAN, and the security. Once you're into the WeConnect, you can, with one click, see your entire environment on a map and see the conditions that each of those sites are, and very quickly see the quality of experience that each of those sites are, quite frankly, experiencing. And in the case where we got multiple access lines because we wanted the high availability that SD-WAN promises, you can see there might be one access that's having issues, another access that was having issues intermittently, and their individual performance isn't that great. But overall, your quality of experience at that location is high. And we can watch these and do assessments on these as we go along. Does this AT&T circuit need to be replaced, right? Without the end user being impacted. And that's one of the beauties of SD-WAN. In addition, as we get into getting into the SD-WAN portal itself, so this is just the business level. When you get down into the SD-WAN portal, you can look at it on a box by box basis of what the underlays are doing and what they look like. You can look at the throughput, the bandwidth, the latency, KPIs like data delivery ratio. This is all the power that is put in your hands, right? This isn't just what Windstream's seeing. This is how you can have visibility and in some cases control over your own environment, even though Windstream's taking care of the day-to-day patching and management and replacing of boxes and OS. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You can worry about what's going on that it might impact your business. And it does, in some cases, our SD-WAN design can give you control. You can go onto that previous slide where there's a box. You can see, why is this site getting choked out? I want to see what applications are choking out this site. You can click on the site, the box, the applications. You can find out what device is sending that application. And then you can click over here and you can put a rule in place that I don't want that. Maybe it's a marketing guy and he or gal, and they should be looking at YouTube, but I don't want it choking out everything else. I'm going to rate limit it. They can get to YouTube, but I'm going to rate limit it 5% of the bandwidth of that site. And you can do all of that, make that policy change from discovery to deployment of the policy change in less than 2 minutes yourself. And if you don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. I'm calling Concierge. Concierge, do this for me. It's your choice.
Can we call you, Robert? We can't just call you?
You can absolutely call me, and I'm happy to. I'll be part of the. You get into an operations conversation, and we have, in addition to that TSM with the concierge we talked about, we also have customer advocates that are going to be part of many of our customers, and that's a dedicated resource that's operationally looking at your environment, more from a business perspective. The concierge is more technical. And I'm always involved in those conversations whenever need be. But yeah,
and Matt, I think one of the things worth noting here as well. I mean, you all of us have been in conversations in the past where we needed to make routing changes in MPLS, and you had to go box by box by box by box when you all of a sudden made a change. And if the customer's got 50 locations, you literally had to go into every single box and make routing changes for 50 locations. One of the beauties of SD-WAN, and I know many people know it, but we can also make a policy configuration change across 50 boxes and do it all at once.
Yeah. And that's something we actually didn't talk about with SD-WAN is what's called zero touch deployment, right? This is all being done from a centralized orchestrator or controller. And that means you don't have to have expensive IT resources at each site. You just need someone able to plug in the box, or you come to Windstream for that, and we'll have somebody dispatched to the site. But it means your CCIE on staff, or whoever you've got, your CCNA on staff, doesn't have to fly to all your 50 locations. And when you're rolling out a new application, you could have the old policy here and the new policy here, and you can roll the new policy out and have the old policy waiting as a fallback, right? We want to test it during a maintenance window. Maybe 5 of your 50 sites, we do it there first. We test it. We're going to test performance. We're going to test all the things. And oh, something's not working right. We're going to fall back, and you do it just like that from the portal. And the concierge can be involved in that, or if once you know how to do the portal, if you love touching it yourself, we can do that. Which gets us back to the flexibility. One of the things we talk about with our clients is co-management. How much do you want to manage, and how much do you want us to help? And we love talking about that. But the real big thing I want to talk about today is the data lake and the gathering up of all of this information across all these services we've been talking about, across the underlay vendor management for the pipes from our years and years of experience, our SD-WAN decade of experience, our security decade of experience, all of the voice experience. And you have visibility into the portal for our Velo SD-WAN deployment. And you can see across the enterprise, you don't have to look box by box anymore. You can see across the enterprise the entire health and state of your environment. You can see how many sites are up, how many are down, how many are browning out, not hitting the KPIs. They might still be up, but somebody's calling you and complaining. But you can see that now, right? You can see all of the top talkers, where the destinations are. And part of this is you can look at trending and get automated reports sent to you when my thresholds of trending are broken by 20%, 25%. You can set that percentage down for application performance, and you can get that trend sent to you. Talk about making it easy to manage your SLAs, right? There's so much to this. There are different digests for sites, applications, devices, and on applications and devices, there's one-click reports where you can say, I want to know how many applications were added to my network without my knowledge in the last 30 days. Click, and you've got the report. I want to know how many devices were added to my environment in the last 30 days. You're going to get a lot more, especially if you have guest wireless somewhere, phones and iPads coming in and out, but you will get the report. And then the one I love a ton, I think it might be on the next one. If you ever have had to justify your decision to go with SD-WAN in the last 5 to 7 years, we have a counter on this portal for the overall environment digest. It'll tell you how many latency events. This is how many times your circuit didn't go down, but the performance over that circuit was less optimal. How many times did we have a latency event? How many times do we have a jitter event, packet loss? How many total events were there? How many were mitigated by an SD-WAN action, right? Of all the total impacts, how many of those impacting events would have hurt you if you didn't have SD-WAN? And how many did SD-WAN help you on? And the events prevented, 41% in this demo environment sample data, 40% of these events, jitter, packet loss, would have impacted your real-time high-performance applications. 41% of those were mitigated by SD-WAN being in place. That's right there on the portal. Again, the insights. So many portals out there. I won't throw shade on any particular competitors, but so many portals were developed by command line guys and gals that need to type in the commands. This is true business level strategic visibility for you. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, Rob, no, I mean, I think one of the things that's worth noting here as well is, I know Matt brought this up earlier, right? I mean, we talked about it, building this on our own infrastructure versus people that are deploying on let's say a Velo Cloud architecture and a Velo Cloud backbone and their own components. I mean, now I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, I think Velo, anybody that's on a Velo backbone environment, that data is stored for 30 days, I think.
That's right. Yeah, Velo stores everything in their orchestrator for 30 days. Windstream stores it in our data lake that's available to you for a year and for ourselves for longer than that.
It's just something worth noting in that, overarching.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead. I know that I'm looking at the time, and I'm going to, we've got quotes and the way that our customers are using these reports, they're customizable. And I'm going to go ahead and move forward. We can do a complete, you want SD-WAN, you want access aggregation. Those are the WAN pieces, but we can do a complete overall solution and talk to you about all of the things that affect the application path flow and performance. We have won awards. It is Windstream proprietary. And with a ton more to say, I will stop there and stop myself. And Tony, hand it back over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing though onto that. I mean, you can go ahead and flip the next slide, Rob, but I do want to add one more thing into the WeConnect, right? Is certainly we talked about how people manage the current environment, but I also think it is relevant to understand that from really inception of an order all the way through lifetime, that WeConnect portal is built really to be our customer's interface with order and order statusing, as well as with trouble and trouble resolution, trouble tickets, and all of that. Really, I mean, the one thing that we have, it's really not like something we discovered, but quite honestly, I mean, the industry that we live in today, zero touch self-service and trouble ticket and trouble ticket opening is really what people want, right? They don't want to have to call and talk to someone. They want to be able to open a trouble ticket proactively through a portal and then watch its status and watch it being worked and push buttons if they don't feel like they're getting the attention they need. So I think that's worth noting as well. It is all the way from our order through our really customer satisfaction engine is that portal. I'll cover on a couple other things here, just over the top. We talked about infrastructure as a service and how we build it in. And, again, one of those components with us is also our UCaaS offering. I think one of the things that is important to note is like, we're not just we threw together some platforms, 6 months ago, and we're out here trying to do UCaaS. I mean, some of this comes with acquisitions, but in the Avaya and the Mitel space, which I'll talk about in a minute, we've got 20 plus years. I would absolutely say we're a pioneer in true UCaaS design and deployment. I mean, we've been doing it well over 7 years, pretty much since its inception. Ranked in the top 10 UCaaS providers. We got over 550,000 seats under contract in that space. And again, we own the code, deployment, the support, and really, from my perspective, there are a lot of competitors out there doing over-the-top UCaaS solutions. I think we're not an anomaly as in that we're not the only one, but I think we're probably pretty unique in the richness of the UCaaS offering we have, backed by our own network. When you buy that from us, you don't get any crossover finger pointing. You just get one hand to shake and really one success component. I'm not going to go through each one of these really, really deep, but we have our Office Suite is our native product. That is our homegrown. That is our code. That's what we wrote. It's got, CRM integrations. It's got presence. It does call center feature functionality, albeit a little lighter than some of the other offers. It's pretty much a voice only call center, but it meets a lot of customers' needs when you think about a customer that has really a lot of sites distributed, but their call center is things like help desk and components like that. It's great solutions for that. But as we move up the stack, we actually have a UCaaS offering powered by Avaya IP Office. To date, the only UCaaS offering I know of on the IP Office stack. Certainly has contact center, CRM integration, all of those components. We also have UCaaS powered by Mitel. Again, omni-channel contact center, single tenant architecture. Again, their technology on my stack, right? I always want to reiterate that. I think one of the real unique ones for Mitel, again, I think we can tout we are the only I think we are the only UCaaS offering that actually it has a geared offering towards hospitality as well from that perspective. So integration with, you know, all of the revenue systems for hotels, et cetera. And then last but not least, Avaya Aura. We've got a UCaaS stack for it as well. And again, the one thing to understand is each of these are, across all of this, they are single tenant deployments, not a single stack that every customer has to adhere to what's in the stack. We custom build every stack to each customer's needs. And then last but not least, to round it out, LAN services. You know, again, more and more customers, the Wi-Fi, cloud managed switching and architecture, intelligent IP cameras, all of that stack as well, managed out of a Cloud Connect portal, managed by us. The two main flavors that we utilize for that are Cisco Meraki, as well as Aruba for sort of the two underlying platforms. Being just absolutely transparent, Cisco Meraki is probably the leader of the two for most of our deployments. But that is, you know, again, our folks working out, designing a Wi-Fi solution, the actual switching infrastructure, the IP cameras, and sort of laying all of that over the top in that infrastructure as a service stack. And there we are at the Q&A section.
Nice work, guys. That was impressive. A lot of information. As you guys said, boy, we could have gone on for hours. And I know we hit, you know, a couple minutes on each one. So appreciate that. A couple questions, some basic ones. You know, do you guys specialize on specific verticals?
Matt, I mean, we, as far as in specific verticals, I would say really it's all around distributed networks. However, we also in-house, we actually have within sort of the strategic services organization, we have industry experts that cover off on retail, healthcare, as well as I would say retail or commercial banking. Each of those are areas that we've done a lot of business in. We have a lot of expertise. So we've really hired almost that like C-level executive that can come in and really look at that segment of those business and have a much deeper conversation with our client base.
Cool. I like that. Very nice. Nice answer. We took a poll there earlier, and some of the results was, are you currently utilizing SD-WAN in your network today? And about a little over about a third of the respondents responded, and we got about 22% said yes, and 78% said no, which is insane to me that 78% of the people out there haven't implemented SD-WAN yet. That's awesome. Opportunity knocks, right? Are you currently investigating SD-WAN? Pretty much about almost the same. 76% said yes, 24% said no. So we would love to help. We at Packet Fusion, obviously the way we make our money is bringing customers such as yourselves, understanding your needs, providing the right solutions, and bringing in the right vendors to make sure we have the right solutions for you guys, project manage things, implement things, and ongoing support. So if you are looking, please reach out to us, mpingator@packetfusion.com, and we can help you get to the cloud in all the facets that Windstream and folks talked about here. I'm blown away. I thought I knew everything there was to know about these guys, but I learned a ton today, right? That last slide about, you know, doing Meraki and doing all the different things that you guys do, from IP cameras to switching to Wi-Fi, circuit aggregation to SD-WAN to security, SASE. I just can't stop, right? UCaaS with all the different providers. So some really cool things you guys are doing. I'm impressed. I can end it there. Do you guys want to wrap it up and say a couple of things to end it with, or are you guys good there?
Matt, I think I've spoken more than my fair share. Again, I want to thank you, the folks there at Packet Fusion, for giving us the opportunity to talk to this wonderful audience. And we are here to support you guys in any way possible.
And we're not here for our health. We are here for profit. So we would love to hear from you guys. If you have a project going on, we'd love to help out. We promise we add tremendous value, and we will make everybody look good and provide the right solution for you guys. So again, look forward to seeing you guys in the new year. And this concludes our seeing clearly in 2020 What a great catchphrase, by the way. Thank you, Ellen. We'll come up with a creative one for next year in 2021. But thanks again, and you'll get this recording from us here shortly. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone.